from the 1976 Tangshan Earthquake that wiped out an entire city while its people slept, and the 1960 Valdivia earthquake that was so powerful it sent deadly waves across the entire Pacific Ocean, to the 1999 Izmit earthquake that buried thousands under rubble in less than a minute. Here are the top 5 deadliest earthquakes in history. July 28, 1976, Tangshan, China, 3:42 in the morning. Everyone was asleep. Without any warning, a massive 7.5 magnitude earthquake tore through the city. Tangshan was a busy mining city, packed tightly with homes, factories, and coal mines, and in seconds, nearly 80% of it was gone. Buildings did not just crack, they collapsed completely. Streets split wide open, water lines burst underground, multi-story factories fell straight down, with entire night crews still inside. Survivors said the ground moved like ocean waves, homes folded like pieces of paper, and then silence. No phones, no radio, no communication at all. The outside world had no idea what had just happened. For hours, Tangshan was completely cut off from the rest of China. This is what was left of Tangshan after the quake. Block after block, nothing but rubble and dust. Rescue teams are digging through collapsed walls with their bare hands, listening for any faint sound from beneath. Some survivors were pulled out days later, still alive, found under slabs of concrete they had crawled beneath for cover. Tangshan sits on soft, unstable soil. Soft ground shakes far harder than solid rock. The buildings were old brick structures with no earthquake protection at all. When the ground moved, they simply had no chance. The government officially reported 242,000 deaths, but unofficial estimates go as high as 700,000. To understand what that means, imagine an entire city the size of a major metropolitan area simply ceasing to exist between one breath and the next. Entire families, grandparents, parents, and children gone in seconds. No warning, no goodbye. September 1st, 1923, Yokohama and Tokyo, Japan. Just before noon, families were home cooking lunch. A massive 7.9 magnitude earthquake struck without warning. Buildings crumbled instantly. A landslide buried an entire village of 300 people. A moving train was swept off its tracks and into the water, with only 10 passengers surviving. But the earthquake was only the beginning. Charcoal stoves used for cooking fell onto wooden floors. Small fires started everywhere. Then the winds came. Typhoon force winds, 70 to 80 miles per hour, arrived almost at the same exact time. Those winds turned small kitchen fires into a roaring firestorm. Within 30 minutes, 136 separate fires were burning across Tokyo, and the water mains had already snapped during the quake. There was nothing to stop the flames. What you are seeing is what remained of Yokohama and parts of Tokyo after the fires burned for days. Streets that were once filled with people are now nothing but ash and collapsed walls. The destruction looks almost identical to what atomic bombs would do to Japan. Tokyo was built almost entirely from wood. Over 90% of its buildings were wooden structures packed closely together. When the typhoon winds arrived right after the quake, the city became like a giant pile of fuel with a lit match dropped into it. A massive fire tornado formed, nearly 300 feet tall, and swept through a crowd of over 40,000 people who had gathered in an open field thinking they were safe. Only 300 of them survived. It was like standing at the center of a furnace with walls of fire closing in on every side. Between 100,000 and 145,000 people died in total. The city of Yokohama lost 10% of its entire population in a single afternoon. May 22, 1960, southern Chile, 3:11 in the afternoon. The ground started shaking, and it did not stop. For more than 10 minutes, the earth moved with unimaginable force. This was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in human history, measuring 9.5 on the scale. The shaking was so violent that recording equipment in Argentina, hundreds of miles away, literally jumped off the paper. Scientists could not even measure how strong it was. Buildings crumbled, roads buckled and twisted, Half of the city of Valdivia became unlivable in minutes. Then, just 15 minutes after the shaking stopped, people near the coast noticed something terrifying. The ocean was pulling back, fast, very fast. Those who recognized the signs screamed at others to run to higher ground. Most people had no idea what was coming. Here is footage of the aftermath along Chile's coast. Entire towns reduced to matchsticks. Fishing boats carried 2 miles inland by the force of the water, and the tsunami that followed was as tall as an 8-story building, crashing into everything in its path. But the waves did not stop at Chile. They crossed the entire Pacific Ocean. 15 hours later, 35-foot waves destroyed buildings in Hawaii, killing 61 people. The next day, the same waves reached Japan and killed 138 more. Chile sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where 2 massive tectonic plates grind and push against each other deep underground. Over decades, enormous pressure builds up. On that day, in 1960, all of it released at once. 2 million people lost their homes in a single afternoon. The earthquake released so much energy that it shifted the entire Earth slightly off its axis and shortened the length of the day by a fraction of a second. To put that into perspective, it was as if someone struck the entire planet like a bell, and scientists could still detect the vibrations days later. August 17th, 1999. Northwestern Turkey, 3:01 in the morning. Everyone was in bed. A powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck with no warning at all. The shaking lasted less than a minute, but in that single minute, 60,000 buildings collapsed across the region. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Because it hit in the middle of the night, almost no one had any time to react. People were buried inside their own homes before they were even fully awake. Then, miles away, the quake ruptured storage tanks at a massive oil refinery. A giant fire exploded into the sky and burned for days, sending thick black smoke rising so high it could be seen from far across the region. This footage shows apartment buildings collapsed and stacked on top of each other like crushed cardboard boxes. Rescue workers are digging through the rubble by hand in the dark, calling out and listening for any sound. The oil refinery fire burns in the background, completely out of control, lighting up the night sky. Izmit sits directly on the North Anatolian Fault, one of the most dangerous fault lines in the world. 2 tectonic plates suddenly slipped past each other, snapping nearly 110 kilometers of fault in one violent movement. Many buildings in the region were also built with cheap materials and no real earthquake protection, which made the collapse far worse than it should have been. More than 17,000 people were killed. Another 45,000 were injured. 250,000 people lost their homes overnight. It was like someone had taken a bulldozer and silently flattened an entire region while its people slept, leaving almost nothing standing when the sun came up. October 6th, 1948, Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, 1:12 in the morning. The city was completely asleep. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck and lasted only 10 seconds, just 10 seconds. But in those 10 seconds, nearly every single building in the city collapsed. Brick homes, concrete structures, government buildings, all of them came straight down. Freight trains were thrown off their tracks. Roads cracked open, water pipes burst underground, and within moments, a thick white cloud of dust rose into the night sky and swallowed the entire city whole. One survivor who was inside a government building at the time described looking out his window after the shaking stopped. Where there had been a city, there was now just a white wall of dust, and behind that dust, terrible screams. Then came the silence. The Soviet government, which controlled the region at the time, immediately shut down all reporting about what had happened. No news was allowed out. No international aid was requested. The rest of the world was told almost nothing. This is what rescuers found when they reached Ashgabat. Street after street, with nothing left standing. Entire neighborhoods reduced to flat piles of rubble. Bodies everywhere, with almost no equipment and very few rescuers to find survivors in time. Ashgabat sits at the foot of a mountain range right along the Iran-Turkmenistan border, in one of the most seismically active zones in Central Asia. The city's buildings were mostly made of sun-dried adobe bricks, the worst possible material in an earthquake. When the ground moved, they offered almost zero resistance. The Soviet government officially admitted to around 10,000 deaths, but when the sealed archives were finally opened 25 years later, the true number emerged. More than 110,000 people were dead, 2/3 of the entire city's population, gone in 10 seconds. To understand that scale, it would be like an earthquake striking a city today and killing every single person in 2 out of every 3 homes on every street. Entire families erased, entire neighborhoods gone, and for decades, the world was not even allowed to know it happened. 5 earthquakes, 5 countries, hundreds of thousands of lives lost, and every single one happened with no warning. Some lasted 10 minutes, one lasted just 10 seconds. The ground beneath us holds a kind of power that no building, no government, and no amount of preparation can fully stop. If this video kept you watching, hit subscribe. More stories like this are coming, and you do not want to miss a single one.